Morning, everybody. Everyone's got their coffee topped up. I'd like to welcome everybody. Thanks for coming out early in the morning and joining us for Wealth and Wisdom. Before we get going, my name is Shondell Sabad. I am a director at Anderson in the enterprise advisory part of the business. So I'm not an accountant by trade, so I'll do everything else but that. But we got a team of people who are expert at it. So before we begin, I'd just like to thank our sponsor, Anderson. Sure that's and tell you a little bit about Anderson. Anderson is a leading advisory and tax firm here in Canada with over 50 professionals who help clients tackle the toughest business and tax challenges. Anderson is also part of a global organization with offices in more than 180 countries worldwide. They provide comprehensive tax solutions, but also have a global reach. They help businesses and individuals investing or expanding across borders, from Canadians operating in the US and abroad to international companies establishing operations here in Canada. Their team brings deep expertise and an entrepreneurial mindset to every engagement, providing custom-tailored strategies that drive growth and sustainability. And I believe I saw Krista Rabideau here. Yes, she's the lead partner here in Calgary. So please talk to her with all your tax challenges, which I'm sure many of you in this room have. And now it's my pleasure to introduce someone I've known and respected for many years, Shane Wenzel. He's the president of Shane Homes. Under Shane's leadership, Shane Homes has continued to grow as one of Alberta's most trusted and community-minded home builders, carrying forward the legacy started by his father, Cal. Beyond building homes, Shane has become a respected voice for business owners across Canada, unafraid to tackle tough issues like taxation, red tape, and of course, the housing crisis, which we will be exploring in further detail today. He shares his insights frequently through platforms like Business in Calgary and social media, where his advocacy and candor have made him a leading thought leader on what's really happening in our economy. So I'd like to welcome Shane here to the fireside chat, and joining him will be Catherine Brownlee to lead the questions and answers. Welcome, Shane. Thank you for joining us today, and welcome, Catherine. Thank you.
Thank you, Shondell. And it's so good. So good that you could do this with us, Shane. I'm really excited about it.
You harassed me for 6 months,
True that.
but I did say yes. So here I am.
You were worn down. Yeah. Thanks, Shane. So we've got a series of questions that we pre-planned, and I hope you're ready.
Okay.
What is the biggest myth about the housing crisis?
I really had to think hard about that one. I think it comes back to the fact that we had politicians and bureaucrats pointing the finger at our industry saying, you're not building enough homes out there. And, you kind of take that with a grain of salt, maybe a little bit of an insult where you sit there and say, do you think I don't want to double my volumes when you have an opportunity to build more homes? We're not throttling anything down. We're doing as much as we possibly can. I think my biggest concern is when I started in this industry 35 years ago, we are building no more homes than what we were 35 years ago. And that's a big concern because when you consider the fact that Canada's population back then was about 28 million, we're now up to well over 41 million, and we're not building any more. We're going backwards for the amount of homes we're building in this country, and that's what concerns me the most. So, yeah, in a self-imposed crisis, yeah, I want to build more homes, but I can't. I'm limited by the trade base. I'm limited by the policies related to the building codes in Canada. So, no, I kind of take offense to that one.
Yeah, I do too.
Mm-hmm.
Quite frustrating, I'm sure. What is one surprising fact about the housing market?
I think one surprising fact out there is that the the building technologies out there have advanced somewhat, and not a great deal over this time. And I think one of the biggest surprising facts is, yeah, some efficiencies have improved, but the costs have gone up largely because of policies with the government. And there's really no net gain, no return for the consumer, and that bothers me because we're trying to work towards affordability, and we're not achieving affordability anymore. We're just adding in, feel good items that people really can't afford. Again, they're not going to see the return on a home if you add $30,000-$40,000 in code items, and that's disturbing to me because I would love to see everybody get into a new home, and as you can see, every layer that you add on just adds cost and frustration, and that's sad because everybody deserves to live in a new home. Why can't they?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
We certainly see it on the street with the increase in our homeless friends. It's very frustrating and very sad to see.
Scary to see, in fact,
Very.
especially in a city like Calgary, where we're one of the most wealthy cities in all of Canada, and here we are looking at that many people who are homeless.
Yeah, it's awful. Now
Mhm.
winter coming. If you could change one policy tomorrow to make an impact, what would it be?
It's another one of those questions I really struggled with. We don't have an hour or two, do we? I know it's not a popular thing in our industry for me to speak out against it. I would dump the net zero, to be totally honest with you. Again, I go back to there's no net gain for the end user. You're looking at $35,000 a house, I believe, is the last figure that I had heard on an average 2,200 square foot home. Now, if you amortize that over the life of your mortgage, basically double that figure, there is no net return to people on adding all that stuff in. So ultimately, I would get rid of that. I would roll the codes back 15 years, to be totally honest, if I had my druthers, and we would start from there. Because I'm not sure, or I'm not convinced, rather, that the definition of green has been properly defined.
Have you talked to the minister about that?
I've talked to quite a few ministers about that. And some of them look at me with glazed eyes. So you go down to the deputy minister and they kind of get it. But, again, that's the buzzword is, green, green, green. Let's reduce our GHG emissions. To be totally honest, if you want to reach those targets, I know how to get there in 3 years. Renovations. Give the renovation industry or give the consumer rather a renovation tax credit to replace the old mid-efficient furnaces, to replace the old single pane, double pane windows, to increase the insulation in their attics. You're going to double the business that the renovators do in a year, and you're going to reach those GHG targets that we agreed to many, many years ago, and you're going to do that in about 3 years. So why are we trying to make a more expensive home just for the sake of what? Saying we did it? We're not building anything that much better, to be totally honest.
Thank you, Shane. We're going to switch gears a bit.
Okay.
When did you know you wanted to lead the business?
To be truthful, not immediately when I started with the company. I mean, I wanted a job and, I wanted to be involved with the company in some way. I don't think at a young age you really understand where you want to be, where you want to plant your roots. And I had a good starting point with Shane Holmes working as a marketing assistant under my father, Cal, who is a wonderful A-type personality, as you can imagine. I got to learn under him and eventually grew through the company. And I think it was probably about 5 years into it where I felt a little more comfortable saying, I have a passion for this. I have a passion for this because I'm typically very creative. And I had different opportunities in the sales and marketing side to apply that creativity. And biggest challenge was trying to integrate that into a business model because we were a young company. We were still growing. We incorporated in 1979, and Cal and his business partner at the time, Barry Balsley, had really just started a home building company. That was the plan. Let's start from there. But we didn't have a brand. We didn't have a clear direction. So that's what I got to help develop over the years. And it took some time. We played the price point game with in the early stages of the company, and eventually we created more of a lifestyle brand that was going to be more endearing, and it was tied back a lot to the core values of the company. Just took a little time, a little convincing too.
I understand that. Now you're a household name. Everybody knows you.
Well, you see, that was kind of the idea.
I love it. Well done, Shane. What are the most important lessons you've learned from your father?
Lots. Lots. It's when you come up in that generation, you're part of the generation of tough love. And I think the best one to relate to is a little story I like to tell people. And this is going way back in time. Some of you might be able to relate. When we were young, we would put these advertisements, these little classifieds, in the home section of the Calgary Herald. And eventually, I was responsible for that. And I put together the ad copy for the classified, and I needed my father to sign off for it. I couldn't find him. And the deadline was Wednesday at 12 noon for print on Saturday. Those were the rules back then. I couldn't find him. It was driving me nuts. And finally, I had to sign off on him myself. Not totally confident of that, but I couldn't find him. I couldn't get a hold of him. And the next day, he came into the office, and I was mad. Like, I was mad. And he calmed me down. We sat down, and he looked at me and he said, "I'm going to give you a little piece of advice." He said, "I don't always make the right decisions, but the key here is I always make a decision, right or wrong." He said, "You have to learn how to do that. You have to quit relying on me." So I've always kept taken that one to heart, and I share that story with everybody who works within the company. Just make the decision, right or wrong. I want you to learn from making mistakes because we all do it. I still do it. I don't make all the right decisions, but at least I make them.
I made 3 before I got here this morning.
I did too. I did too. I took the wrong route into downtown Calgary.
That's awesome. Those are good. That's a good lesson to learn. What key pivots helped the company grow?
Well, that first one was defining the brand. That was a big piece of how we pivoted into who we are today. But expanding out your market offering, that was another big change, and we still do it. Still drives Cal nuts, but we still do it. So when we started out, we were simply building front drive single family homes. Then eventually we were able to jump into the laned home market, and then the semi-detached market, the street town market, and I think still, much to Cal's chagrin, the multifamily market. Because he's a believer, but not a big believer yet. But we'll get him there. But that was one of the big pivots, was moving into multifamily. The other big pivot was taking better control of our land development destiny. Because as you're sitting around the table at one of our strategic planning sessions, you sit there and think, what is the worst thing that could possibly happen to this company? Well, if you don't have any land to build on, we're effectively out of business. So we decided to take better control of that about 20 years ago, and now we have a solid land strategy that, quite honestly, with the investments that we have there, I mean, we're not in some of the areas that we've invested in. We actually turn them down because we just don't have the capacity to be there. So there's a lot of pivot points. The land, the multifamily, and the other one will be investments as we move forward. The one quick one, we're getting there, is we just opened up a second city. We opened up in Dallas here about a month or 2 ago. I always wanted that second city, and Edmonton was just too damn cold. Dallas is much warmer. A little harder to get there, but it's much warmer. Different environment, different world. There are lots of pivots.
Yeah, no kidding. Congrats. Why did you choose Dallas?
Well, it was warmer. No, I always wanted that second city. I participated in Tech Canada. I don't know if there's a few of the members here. That wonderful business group. I'm still friends with the with a lot of the members who were there in the day, but I haven't been there for about 7 years now. And we had always talked about business goals, and having that second city was one of them. But I knew it wasn't in Canada. It actually started off as Nashville. We were down there, and believe it or not, we had 3 land opportunities. All our land guy had to do was go down there and pick one. But it was March of 2020. And we all know what happened then. So I had to tell Brendan, I said, you're not going down there. I don't know what's going to happen when we open up. I can't afford to lose you for 2 weeks as well. So we waited, and about a year and a half later, we ended up back down in Nashville. Those same land opportunities weren't there because the price of raw land tripled in that amount of time. The big multinationals came into Nashville, and that effectively shut us out of the market. So we have a great relationship with the Qualico group of companies here in Calgary. In fact, one of our best land investment partners, and I got introduced to their VP of land development in Dallas, and managed to convince John Vick over dinner that he should sell us half the lots in his new subdivision. And he agreed, as long as we reciprocated down the line. So Dallas it is.
Awesome. I've never been there. It's warmer. That's good.
We're going.
Okay, good. Excellent. AG trip.
Yes, let's do a trip down there.
That'd be good. Thanks, Shane. What do you want the legacy of Shane Homes to be?
Yeah, that was an interesting question when I saw that one pop up. You want an enduring brand. Again, we've taken so much time and care in developing it. And I think it really comes back to 3 words. You know, we want to be fun. We are a family. And we like to think we're famous. And that's kind of the lasting legacy you want to have. You want to be that most recognizable builder that provided the best customer experience for everybody who purchases your homes. That's the legacy that I want to leave behind. It's not about growth. It's about, you know, what kind of impact you have on your people and the community at large. That's important. That's lasting. That's memorable.
And the impact is large, my friend. Well done. Well done. How do you balance short-term results with long-term impact?
With a great deal of difficulty. I think you balance it in a way that we have a phenomenal executive team. Did I ever tell you that? Phenomenal executive team. You know, if you look at it, we complement each other, but we complement our strengths and our weaknesses all at the same time. You know, so I typically I end up in a more visionary role. So of course, I'm always looking at what we're doing about 10, 15, 20 years out. And you need people surrounding you who can look at those short-term goals and say, you want to get to there, boss? Guess what? We've got to do this along the way. And, you know, honestly, I'm blessed to have that kind of strength within the team. Again, we complement each other extremely well. And that didn't happen overnight. That would be about, you know, 10 years of planning and finding the right people who can fit into that team and make all that happen correctly.
That's magic.
Mm-hmm.
How many people on your team in total now?
We are up, I believe, between Calgary and Dallas, we're at about 160 people now.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And so how many in Dallas now?
Just 3.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the rest of them are all here in Calgary.
Awesome.
Come on, you got to keep the base strong. But
Yeah.
you know, obviously, with being in Dallas, we're going to have to start adding more people as we move along. But you know, a lot of those core services are still run out of the Calgary operation. But over time, as you grow, and quite honestly, we can scale there a hell of a lot quicker. It'll happen. We'll probably have 20 people employed there in the next 5 years very easily.
What's the regulations, policy, foundation like down there? Is it a lot easier to do business?
It's much easier to do business down in Dallas. Look, if we can open up a business there within 6 months, and your politicians and your bureaucrats down there are welcoming you with open arms, that's a fun environment to open up a company in. You know, they are very, very accommodating, and their codes are far less too.
Sounds good. Thank you. What role does mentorship play in your approach to legacy building?
Well, apparently, it plays a hell of a lot more now. You know, because as we look at it, we're a family business, and believe it or not, I'm the youngest one in it. My father Cal is 82 this year. My brother-in-law Dave is now 65, I believe, and he's the COO of the company. He's also playing president in Dallas because he is that much of a micromanager that he is the perfect person to open up an operation like that because absolutely nothing will sneak by him. My sister Charlene is the VP of administration, but she's there about 2 or 3 days a week now. She's kind of semi-retired. She's enjoying being a grandmother more than anything. We're aging out. We're aging out, so you have those succession plans in place, and that's where our executive come into play. They're much younger than I am, and now you're shifting gears. You're into this mentorship role. I mean, it's kind of intimidating at first, but it's kind of fun now. You know, you get to share that knowledge with people who are just gobsmacked by how did you do it? All those you didn't have those systems in place? No, we made it up as we went along. And in cases we did, and we did very well at it. But you know, it's a very large company now, and it's much more structured than what it has to, or than it that it once was. So yeah, mentorship is a big part of what I do now because you're trying to hand the torch off to the next generation. Very difficult to do in a family owned and run business.
Well, I imagine it would be very different. Awesome. Thank you. How has serving on all the different boards that you've been on shaped your perspective on Alberta or Canada's economy and our future?
I appreciate the boards for the perspective and the people that you get to meet, and you begin to realize that your little world here in Calgary is just exactly that. It's very small. It's very contained, and when you open up to some of these boards and you get a more national perspective, things really do change. You know, you begin to understand, this is how this started here, and this is why this policy came into being. It's changed my perspective totally, and it's actually changed my job role, my job description as to what I do. My presidency is far different than what my father's was. His was a presidency of growing the company. Mine's is certainly that, but you know, about a third of the time I play politician, I play bureaucrat, and that was never a factor when I started in the business. It's an automatic now that is part of my job. But being on those boards certainly opened my eyes.
I bet. Well, I'm glad the position you're taking out there. Thank you. And why have you chosen to be bold and unfiltered in social media?
I would love to say it was a dare, but it wasn't. We go back to lockdowns. We go back to early 2020, and our marketing manager, Chelsea Tatry, came back to me and said, "We kind of need your support. You have a bit of a social media presence. Can you help us? Because we know we're not going to be able to get people into the show homes. You know, there's a little fear out there, and there's restrictions. And can you help support us?" So I said, "Sure," but I said, "It's not going to be in the way you think it is." And you know, it took a little encouragement there. It took a little encouragement from my friend, and I call him my producer now, Zach Hussein, because I obviously had a lot of opinions, a lot of views on things that were happening in the world, happening in our industry especially, and he bothered me over coffee for about 6 months to start doing video, which I wasn't totally comfortable with. And And finally, you're sharing those same opinions I would share with him over coffee online. And I know it seems a little bit daunting for people. You think, God, you're shooting yourself in the foot. You can get into trouble doing this. No, you can't. I mean, you share your opinion. You would share your opinion around this room with anybody at the table. Why would you be afraid of doing it online? I don't understand that. But it's amazing when I talk to some of even my counterparts in the industry who will not share that knowledge. They're too scared to. They're too scared to share their opinion. And yet I'm sitting there saying, you're experts. You have life experience. Why wouldn't you want to do that? It's kind of fun.
It's pretty bold. I actually get afraid of it.
Stop it.
I do. I get afraid of it. To be really bold and loud out there, I want everybody to like me.
Even if you're not there, not everybody likes you.
That is true.
They don't. It's
That's
a
true.
true fact. Not everybody likes you. They just don't get to say it to your face all the time
That's
because
true.
most of them don't have the guts to. But you're just sharing your opinion. As long as you share it in a way that's not so intimidating and really just matter of fact. What harm is there in doing that?
You're right. I can learn from you. Thanks, Shane. What do you think policymakers are getting wrong about housing?
Everything. Well, again, I go back to, what is the ultimate goal out there? We're trying to create affordable housing in the country. You hear that all the time. And, again, where I get a little bit frustrated with it is not only with our lead organization, CHPA Canada, but you get annoyed with the fact that, the federal government, as an example, are telling you that you're not doing enough, for one, but you're also ignoring, technological advancements. And you've likely heard this lovely buzzword now, we're going to do everything through modular. Okay, well, it's not that we're unfamiliar with modular. In fact, prior to Shane Holmes starting, my father was the VP of Neonex Shelter, which was a mobile home company here in Calgary, and that was a Jim Pattison-owned company. You might remember where the site was. Everybody know where the Crossroads Furniture Market was? Okay, that used to be Neonex Shelter. Our first field operations manager was Ron Higgs. He was the floor manager. So he built easily 10,000 mobile homes out of there. So we're quite familiar with modular. And this is the savior of the country. It's not cheaper. It's a little bit quicker. And, as an example, the federal government comes back and starts I love this, Build Canada Homes. And we're going to pump out 500,000 homes a year. We're only doing roughly 250,000 right now. Quick example is when you look at the United States, there's about 150 modular factory plants out there, and they produce 45,000 homes a year. So in order for Canada to do that, we would need 600 plants to turn out another 250,000 homes per year, with a population 1/9 the size of the United States. The numbers just don't add up. That's where I get frustrated, Catherine. It's a lot of smoke and mirrors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet. But there's a lot of that everywhere you deal with.
Yes.
Thanks, Shane. Switching gears again.
Uh-oh.
What core values guide you as a leader?
Well, the nice part is we have these core values in the company. I mentioned them earlier on. That's how we really fully developed the brand of, the Shane Holmes Group of companies. But honesty and integrity are the ones, the two that really stand out for me, and those are built right into the core values of the company. You want to treat people fairly is another one, because we have trade partners, and we've had some good long-term trade partners. So, and we treat them that way. But treating people fairly means, you pay your bills on time. If you made a promise, you follow through with it, even though it might hurt, or you might want to switch gears. That's where the honesty and integrity comes in. So it's so valuable, so important, and you almost feel like it's been a little bit lost nowadays because it's too easy to just walk away from a bad deal. We won't walk away from a bad deal. We made a commitment and we intend on following through with it.
That's that good reputation again.
Hmm.
Do what you say you're going to do.
Exactly.
I teach these seminars every few weeks, and I always ask the group, always the same question. What is the percentage of people that do what they say they're going to do in your life? And the majority say 5 to 10% do what they say they're going to do. So I'm like, okay, there's your chance to stand out. Just do that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That'll get you a lot further than anything, I would say.
true that. Thank you, Shane. What has been your toughest challenge and how did it shape you?
You know, I'm going to say the toughest challenge has been succession planning. Again, when you go back to the fact that we are a family owned and run business, it's giving up that control that I know concerns my parents. You know, they very much want it to be a continuation of this family. Maybe it's this vision of what everybody remember the program Dallas from years ago, the Ewings. I think my mother has that in her mind. And I do have a young son, Sebastian. He's 25 years old and he's entered into the business. And, his grandfather would love to see him take it over. And I guess I look at it a little bit differently is that, well, we have these capable people, and I'm not saying that he can't, but he's got to be capable. He's got to be capable because when I entered the company, my father, his first big goal was, God, I would, you know, he'd love to be that $100 million company one day. Sure, yeah. It's a $500 million company now. And my goal is to get it to over $1 billion. So what's Sebastian's goal if he was able to take it over? What's he getting into is, does he have to go to 2 billion or more? Or does he just maintain it? Or is he capable of doing it? So that's a big challenge when you're trying to find a happy balance between, the legacy that you want to leave, the legacy of your parents, you want to keep them happy, but you've got a young son who honestly, does he want to? Yeah, I think he does. And he's an intelligent, I always tell people he's better looking and more intelligent than I am. And I know I'm not wrong, but that's a lot of burden to put on a kid.
And then the executive team members that might be interested in that role too. That'll be very difficult.
They are, and we already have a plan for that. And we've had discussions with how that all fits together. That's kind of how open and collaborative we are as a team. Very different, to have that in place and very comforting as well. So that would be one of the biggest challenges right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. What does success mean to you today?
Well, it used to be getting to that big goal. It's still part of it, but I honestly, the success today is mentoring people. To be totally honest, again, I get to do it in the company through our executive, through our managers, to impart that knowledge on them and let them make mistakes along the way. It's kind of fun to watch. And again, I guess it's that success now is taking that knowledge and imparting it. And honestly, I think that's where social media fits in as well. I know everybody's looking at me kind of funny that way. No, it's true. Here's another fun, quick story. Oh God, this would be about 12 years ago now, and I started getting more involved in social media, and you have these little discussions in your tech group about what can you do that's different. Well, I bet you I would get 100 requests for coffee every year. So I started going out for coffees. My first year, I did 42 with just random people. Just random people, honestly. And that's really what a lot of the conversations were. Mentoring, sharing your life experiences, giving insight into how to get in the industry or what direction can I go to college. So it was a variety of students to professionals to psychologists. That was a fun one. To retired CEOs. Just wanted to go for coffee, just wanted to get to meet you, just wanted to pick your brain. So that mentoring has really kind of stuck. Now I don't go for 42 coffees a year anymore. Honestly, it's not enough time in a day. But you know, you still leave some time for specific people just to go out and learn a little bit more about it.
That's how we met. I love it. You've always been very kind and generous with your time and mentorship. Thank you.
You're more than welcome, my dear.
Thanks, Shane. What is one thing about you that might surprise us?
Again, there's about 20 different answers I could give to that. Yeah, honestly, I mean, I look around the room. There's obviously a lot of professionals here, and one of the most important lessons I took away from tech, again, you know, you're sitting around the table with presidents and CEOs, some in smaller companies, some in much larger companies. How do you shut down? Was one of the biggest lessons I learned there. You know, that's something you wouldn't know about me. I have this lovely little cabin down in Montana that I can quite honestly disappear to, and you wouldn't hear from me for 2 weeks. That's how I have to shut down. That's, you know, something that's kind of unique. I mean, you think that, you know, God, he's an extrovert. He's got to be. No, I'm an introvert. I really am. But that's what you have to do to shut down.
Recharge.
You recharge. If you don't do that, you're going to burn out quicker than you know. Take the time, please.
Thanks, Shane. Good advice. What gives you hope about the future of housing?
My biggest hope is that we can get some sanity back there. You know, and I do think you can get that over time. I think the pendulum has kind of swung in one direction for far too long, and you're starting to see it come back in the other direction. You need a few policy changes to make it happen. Again, you know, my biggest concern is that, you know, keeping it affordable for people. And I think you can get to that point again, and you can find a happy balance between, you know, what's a want and what's actually a need. You know, because the last thing I want to see is more homeless people in the street, or, you know, couples, a family making $150,000 a year and they can't afford anything other than a 800 square foot apartment. That's just ridiculous. But I do think the pendulum is starting to swing back more in the other direction. So I have hope.
I have hope for that too, especially for our homeless friends. What do you think of those little pods that are all one unit for our homeless friends in different parts of the world?
There's possibilities. They just have to be more conducive to our environment. You know, as we can all appreciate, you know, there's some extremely cold days in Canada, and there is a reason that, you know, our building codes do exist. You know, you can't just drop a canister or a you know, flip up home in place and expect it to work here in our environment. You know, it's like the age old argument of, you know, do you put a furnace in or a heat pump? Heat pumps do not work well in this end of the country. So no different than those pods out there. They might work in a warmer environment. They don't necessarily work the same way here.
Thanks, Shane. Thanks for that perspective. What is one key message you want our audience to take away today?
I'm still going to come back to the social media thing, because when I look around the room, I see a hell of a lot of expertise out there. Share it, please. You know, you're an expert in your field. Share it with people online. Have a good conversation with them, because I think that's what that we're all aching to do over time. Is, you know, you want to share that knowledge. You don't want it to go away when you retire. So go ahead and share it, but share a few opinions along the way, because I know you do. Because I'm looking around the room and I know there's a bunch of you out there who like certain things, who don't like certain things out there. So why not give it a try?
Thanks, Shane.
I think it would be fun.
Thank you very much. Now we have 20 minutes before 9. Is it okay to move it to the audience and ask for questions?
Oh, absolutely.
Thanks for talking. Subtrades. I don't do new housing. I never will do new housing again. I do not want to work for builders, all sorts of reasons, but I do service. What are you doing about the subtrades? I'll be having work forever. 2 years in one day, 3 years in one day after the warranty is over. Where do you see the subtrades, electricians, the tin bashers, the plumbers? Where do you see that going? Everybody's screaming for good tradesmen. Where do you see that going to build your houses?
Yeah, as part of my new job description, Pete, it's one of my biggest concerns there is. But I will also say to this generation, you have the greatest opportunity of any generation in the last 40 years because you have trades out there who are aging out. They're going into retirement. There's businesses available and they don't have an exit strategy. They don't have a succession plan. So this is a great opportunity for the kids to get in the trades. Where my biggest disappointment comes in is our industry isn't doing enough. And I'm one of the biggest proponents for why don't we have a trade school? Not everybody has to be a red seal trade. You don't need the red seal to hang siding, to hang drywall, to install windows, to do roofing. We need a plan to have a separate trade school for that, for one. We need the government to get involved. We need the government to look past post-secondary and say, this is viable, we can do this. You also need your immigration plan to tie into all of that because you have people coming from other countries who might have been good with plaster, say. They can hang drywall. We just have to teach them the way we do it here that matches up with our code and our quality standards. So there's a lot of moving parts there, and even I'm not sure how to get that all in place. Again, I talk to ministers and I bug them about it, and some listen and some don't. I talk to people in our industry, my counterparts in the industry, and some of them get it, some of them don't. It's like pushing a rope uphill sometimes, Pete. It's frustrating for me, but it's certainly something that's on my daily radar now.
So clearly, we all share a frustration with how the building code inhibits innovation. Can you talk about how you create a capacity or environment at Shane so that you can experiment with emerging technologies, approaches, and so on, while at the same time have a competitive product?
That is a bit of a challenge. We're actually going to get back into more of that now. As you can appreciate, when we opened up after lockdowns, within about 2 months, sales went like that, and we are flat out. Now, we didn't lay anybody off, fortunately, but we do have limitations internally, and our trades have limitations as well. So unfortunately, the innovation hasn't been that front and center over the last 4 years as we're trying to fill the gap. But ultimately, we do have people set aside who love to deal with that, and now we're finally getting back into it with volumes, slowing down in our industry. So of course, AI is a big topic of discussion now. How do we integrate that within the company? Because again, over 4 years, all you're doing is throwing a lot of patchwork into how we do it. We need to refine our processes. We need to integrate AI. And we need to understand in that world, especially, how does that integrate with our customers, with our product offering? Because certainly there are ways where we can save time and we can save money just in building a new home. I mean, the amount of paperwork that we have to submit now, I would say, is probably 5 times what it was when I first started in business. I know I hear that gasp. It's true. It's 5 times as much. It's crazy. But we are definitely working towards that. And again, to me, you have to set aside teams for that. So we do have some subcommittees that we work with we set up rather within the company, and we have a leader. It won't be me. There'll be other people who really want to take it on, and they're passionate about it. But if I could attach a figure to it, I don't think I could. But definitely you should spend about 1 to 2% of your time looking at how you can be innovative. Unfortunately, on the other side, you need, in this case, you need the municipality to go along with some of the innovations that you're proposing. So that ends up being a bit of a task in itself. But yes, you have to. 1 to 2% of your time at least has to be focused on that itself.
Some of the challenges here in Canada with building houses, but the question I have is, who's doing it right? Like which jurisdiction? Because I read a lot about Austin, Texas, and how they've increase supply drastically. And again, that city's growing massively, and rents are coming down, and investors are still making money. So is it Dallas, or is there some other jurisdiction that you look at and say, man, they are just getting everything right?
Yeah, honestly, as part of that innovation or research, we like to travel all over North America and take a look at subdivisions and housing projects, and we do that every 3-4 years. Yeah, again, one of the appeals of Dallas is obviously the speed in which you can build homes. And why can they do that there? One, OHS is far, far, far less than what we deal with here. Building codes do not incorporate anything related to net zero. They're barely scraping the green movement, so to speak. But and this word always drives me nuts when we talk about sprawl. We do not have sprawl in Calgary, by the way. You have the most dense subdivisions in all of North America right here. And we build one subdivision right next door to the next subdivision to the next subdivision. Whereas in comparison to Dallas, our lots in our first subdivision are 60 feet by 150 feet wide. They're effectively quarter acre to third acre lots. We stick 9 houses in an acre in every new suburban neighborhood in Calgary, but they also jump between subdivisions every mile or so. So you could be dealing with a different county, even though you're just across the road or you're half a kilometer away. That's how they've been able to maintain affordability. They don't stop growth, they encourage growth because they realize that there's a tax base attached to it. And if they grow their tax base, what happens? They get more concessions. They get the opportunity to do a heck of a lot more with the state that they're in. So they do a lot of things right there, and it's kind of enviable. And I wish to God that we would take a look at that and try and apply some of that here. But that would require going back in time, rolling back some of these policies or these codes, and admitting that, maybe somebody was wrong at the time. And I don't think it's admitting you're wrong. We do it in business. You sit there and say, why do we do that at some point? And go back to the beginning and say, why don't we start from here and let's rebuild this process or this procedure from scratch? Governments don't like to do that. I don't understand why. They just add a bad policy on top of another bad policy and create a worse policy that none of us can understand. Kind of like CRA. Yes, I like picking on them too.
Shane Holmes has been a community. Thank you. Shane Holmes has been a community investor, a philanthropic investor in our community for years. How does Shane Holmes executive decide which and what and why?
At first, that was one of those policies that you just kind of made up as you went along the way. But it's actually one of our core values is that we give back to the community. And honestly, I would encourage everybody, if you're looking at your company, if you don't have that in your core values, please add it in, because it's infectious with your staff. And from that, what we found is that we had to define what and where we gave more definitively, and they helped create that. They created we created the culture in the company to start. They continued it on and they evolved it, but they wanted to know, how do you do this? So we helped them create they helped us create our giving policy. And that's what kind of drove where we go to today. I can't say it's a specific percentage because last year was our 45th anniversary and Cal wanted to give away another $4.5 million. So it wasn't tied back to profit. It was just what he felt like doing at the time. But we do have a policy that we created that says we give to charities that that have low administrative costs, and they have to have a passionate general manager. Somebody who actually believes in what they're doing. They're not just there for a job. They're passionate. That's why we've been involved with Calgary Minor Soccer for so many years. But at the same time, how are they going to put these dollars to use? We want to know what that looks like as well. And over time, you develop those relationships, and you determine that it's tied back to health, wellness, and education. Those are our 3 core giving models that we work from. health, wellness, education.
Okay, well, Shane, thank you so much for joining us today. Really
Thank you for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
Well done.